Companies compete with each other to win the race to go into outer space. Amazon is set to launch its own internet satellite. To compete with SpaceX, OneWeb, and others, the e-commerce behemoth will launch prototypes of its satellite network into space using tiny rockets. Yes, you heard us right. The headquarters of Amazon in Seattle is about to send half of its projected 3,236 satellites into orbit by mid-2026. Moreover, the corporation has purchased 9 launchers from United Launch Alliance. Amazon announced recently that the first 2 prototype satellites from Project Kuiper, the e-commerce giant's internet from space effort, will launch in the 4th quarter of 2022. That will formally begin its battle for providing high-speed internet connections to clients from low Earth orbit, alongside SpaceX, Elon Musk's space venture, and OneWeb, among others. It will also serve as a critical design test for the satellites before the business launches thousands more into space. Amazon announced its intention to launch a constellation of 3,236 satellites into low Earth orbit back in 2019. This was Jeff Bezos' second foray into space as the founder and former CEO of Amazon. A few other corporations are also rushing to provide high-speed internet to governments, other businesses, and consumers in remote areas who are handicapped by the digital divide. Amazon, like SpaceX, expects to invest $10 billion in the project, which is part of its gadgets division. However, it has taken longer to get off the ground than SpaceX, whose Falcon 9 rockets have launched roughly 2,000 internet-bearing satellites into orbit for its own Starlink business. Thousands of consumers are trialing SpaceX service, which costs $99 per month and includes $499 antenna kits. Amazon introduced the customer antenna design in 2020 and has been ground testing prototype satellites for years. In an interview, Rajiv Badial, a vice president at Amazon who oversees the Kuiper project, said, "You can test all the stuff you want in your labs, which we do. We have invested sadly a lot of money to construct infrastructure to test these things. However, the final test will take place in space." The companies are competing fiercely, and their plans have made investors and analysts curious, who expect the constellations to generate tens of billions of dollars in income once fully operational. However, space safety advocates who fear satellite collisions adding to orbital pollution, astronomers whose ground-based telescope observations of the night sky could be disrupted by the satellites, and dark skies advocates who fear light pollution from sunlight reflecting from the constellations have all criticized the plans. Approval from authorities. Amazon's network was approved by the Federal Communications Commission, which oversees satellite communications to the ground, in 2020, and the corporation was given a timetable to launch half of its 3,236 satellites by mid-2026. In a contract involving hundreds of millions of dollars, Amazon purchased 9 launches from the rocket business United Launch Alliance. But according to Mr. Badial, Amazon has been in talks with other launch providers, notably SpaceX, whose quick Starlink deployment is partly due to its ability to use its reusable rocket boosters for launches. The prototypes. Kuiper Sat-1 and Kuiper Sat-2, the first 2 prototype spacecraft, will launch separately on ABL Space Systems rockets, one of a handful of startups constructing smaller launch vehicles to meet demand from satellite firms. Because the market for smaller rockets designed to deliver payloads to space swiftly and economically is crowded, ABL's Amazon contract, which covers up to 5 launches on ABL's RS-1 rocket from Cape Canaveral, Florida, is a win. In an interview, Harry O'Hanley, ABL's chief executive, said the selection process was a lengthy, grueling, tough one that included several days of lifting the hood and seeing what's underneath. He added, "I'd say they went as far, if not further, than any company we've ever seen." For the first time in Amazon's Kuiper program, the pair of Amazon prototype satellites will test internet connections between orbit and the company's flat, square antennas for consumers on the ground. Parts of South America, the Asia-Pacific area, and Central Texas will be tested. Drones equipped with satellite technology were flown over ground antennas, and ground antennas were connected to other firm satellites already in orbit, drawing internet speeds fast enough to broadcast high-definition video. Pricing. Employees working on Kuiper, like those working on other aspects of Amazon's device business, are under pressure to keep prices low as they produce a final version of the company's consumer antenna. According to Mr. Badial, the company is evaluating a variety of pricing options, ranging from charging clients for the antenna and all associated wires to an extreme instance in which the antenna is given away for free. We're hyper-focused on reducing the cost down so the total cost of ownership for customers is minimal, he added, adding that the antenna design has been modified since Amazon announced it last year. When you create satellites, you don't have to count pennies, but when you build a consumer terminal, we do. The penny counting comes from Amazon's devices division, which has produced consumer products such as Alexa smart speakers and Fire TV sticks for streaming TV. Andy Jassy, Amazon CEO, referenced the Kuiper project as an example of the company's efforts to innovate, even as it has become so huge during a conference last month. Amazon, he added, needs blind faith in its ability to work out complicated new technologies. You have to make sure that in the way that you're thinking about operating it and what the customer experience will be, that customers will adopt it and find it easy enough and appealing to use, he continued. The process behind building the prototype. SpaceX had a difficult time building the antennas, which cost them around $3,000 each before selling them for $499. According to the business president Gwynne Shotwell, the cost has since dropped below $1,500 and the company aims to lower it even more to the few $100 range over the next year or two. In discussions with FCC commissioners, Amazon has argued with SpaceX over arcane legal problems. The animosity between the two companies, which occasionally spills into the open, is tied to Mr. Bezos and Mr. Musk's broader competition over NASA and Pentagon launch contracts, which their space companies compete for. When SpaceX sought regulators to authorize a new plan to decrease the heights of its satellites earlier this year, Amazon objected, claiming that it would obstruct the company's plan to safely remove defective satellites from orbit. Mr. Musk accused Amazon of limiting competition on Twitter. SpaceX has been accused by Amazon of breaking norms that other companies are required to obey. Another problem for SpaceX and Amazon is lowering the quantity of sunlight reflected by their satellites. Astronomers have accused SpaceX's Starlink satellites of photobombing night sky surveys, spreading broad streaks of light across photos during peak celestial viewing hours. To reduce the brightness, SpaceX has tried a variety of techniques, including coating the satellites in anti-reflective paint and utilizing a so-called sunshade, a wing that works as a visor to filter out sunlight. According to Mr. Badial, one of the Kuipersat satellites set to launch next year will also include a sunshade. Will it be flawless? I'm not sure, he responded, but we'll figure it out. What is satellite internet? If you live or work in the middle of nowhere, your internet connection options must be limited. Dial-up is one of these possibilities, and satellite is usually the other. Satellite internet is a wireless connection that uses 3 satellite dishes, one at the provider center, one in space, and one on your premises. Aside from the satellite dish, you'll also need a modem and wires to connect the dish to the modem. Once you've got everything set up, your ISP will send the internet signal to a satellite dish, which will then relay it to you. Every request you make, such as new page, download, email, etc., is sent to the space dish and then to the ISP's hub. After that, the request is relayed back via space, to your dish, and finally to your computer. What are the benefits of satellite internet? Satellite internet is only useful if you reside in a region where other internet choices such as cable or DSL are unavailable. If you're currently using dial-up, satellite internet will be an upgrade in the sense that it's significantly faster. Apart from that, there aren't many reasons to use satellite internet. Take a look at these advantages and disadvantages to see what I mean. Advantages of satellite internet. Satellite internet is faster than dial-up internet. Depending on the bundle you choose, satellite speeds might range from 10 to 35 times faster than dial-up. Satellite internet connections can manage heavy bandwidth utilization. Therefore, a large number of users or peak use hours should not hinder your internet speed or quality. Satellite internet does not require a phone line, which makes it easy to use. Cons of satellite internet. The signal route is affected by the weather. If you have the internet at all, you should expect low-quality internet during heavy wind or rainstorms. Latency issues or a high ping rate. Latency and ping rate are essentially the same thing. They both measure how long it takes for computer, device, service or server on a network to interact with another computer, Device, service, or server. It refers to how quickly you can send and receive data using satellite internet. Satellite internet has low latency or a high ping rate because data must be sent to space, to your ISP and back. So if you're a gamer or want to utilize VoIP services, satellite internet isn't for you. Signals can be damaged by minor obstacles. Your dish must face south, where all the orbiting dishes are, and any obstructions to your dish's signal, such as trees or buildings, can degrade the quality. If you live in the woods, this can be a real pain. Bandwidth restrictions. You'll have a certain amount of bandwidth each month before your ISP throttles your connections. This complies with their fair use policy. Some ISPs instead provide daily bandwidths, which is marginally better because you won't have to wait as long as a month if you utilize your bandwidth right away. VPNs will not work with satellite internet. They demand a system with low latency and large bandwidth, which is the polar opposite of satellite internet. The cost of satellite internet is relatively high. For speeds of 2 Mbps, you'll pay roughly $100 per month. To put this in context, people pay twice as much per month for 25 times faster cable internet.